Hello everybody, and welcome to the newest episode of Kerbal Space Program. And if you can see down here in the bottom right, I am playing version 0.25. That's right, it's the newest version. Economic Boom has just been released either today or yesterday, and I am so super excited for it because there's a lot of new interesting features that you can do in this game. It keeps a lot of the old stuff about the same, but there's a lot of new stuff that you can add in. They also added a bunch of new spaceplane parts. So what I've basically done here is I've downloaded the new version, just copied across all my saves and all my mods, so they're still in this version here. And what I'm thinking about doing is basically starting kind of like a new playlist, but technically this is going to be like episode 37 in my career mode playlist, because we did get through a lot of the stuff. Like if we check out where are we here? We'll check out our R&D. We're basically finished with the tree, and we got all this stuff in our 0.24 series, but I kind of don't want to start all over again because that would be kind of boring to do the same exact missions over again. So I just kind of copied my saves over, and we can just continue exploring all the things that we haven't explored yet. Like we still have a lot of solar data to get. We haven't gone to Moho yet. We haven't gone to Dres, and there's a whole bunch of Julian moons we haven't been to yet, like Lathe, Vol, and Tylo, as well as the little world Elu, the little dirty snowballs it's been called. So there's a lot of stuff that we can do. Even though we have the tree mostly filled out, there's a lot more worlds that we can go to, and I kind of look forward to doing that. In our last mission we went to Jewel, we put 2 probes down on the 2 outer moons, but in this one here, I think we'll just kind of talk about the newest features and settings that happen in this one. Let's take a look over here. So this is the newest building. It's called the what was it called? I forget. Administration building, I believe. So in this type of building, you can kind of select different perks that you want to take effect. So let's take a look at the first guy, Mortimer Kerman. He's the finances guy. You can see he's kind of like the sweaty businessman. So if you choose his fundraising campaign, basically what that means is you take whatever reputations you get and yields more funds per reputation. So in other words, you're sacrificing your reputation to get more funds every time you get reputation. So that's if you kind of like don't need so much reputation, you want more money, so you have too much reputation, you can go ahead and do that. But there's another option here, patents licensing. Basically what this does is it takes your science yield and it turns it into funds. So he's like the money guy. You're sacrificing either science or reputation to get more money, basically. So if you're kind of running low on funds in an emergency, you can switch over to him. Now the slider down here is your commitment bar. So as you can see, as you go higher in commitment, it also raises the amount of gains and the amount that you'll sacrifice, basically. So if you choose to 100% this, it'll cost 500 reputation to set up, which if we did it here, we could totally do it because our reputation is through the roof. But let's say you were just starting out, you probably wouldn't have that much reputation, so you wouldn't be able to commit to that one 100%. Let's go to the next guy, Linus here. He's the science guy. Linus Kerman, the science guy. Unpaid research program. So basically what that means is you sacrifice reputation gains and it gives you more science. So a higher slider for that would be, 65% of your reputation gain you got from a mission would give you 1 science per 1.475 reputation. So that's pretty good if you need more science. Here's another one, outsourced R&D. So this one will take your funds, it'll sacrifice your funds and turn that into more science. So if you just really wanted to get up that tech tree and you didn't care so much about money, you would go with that one. But in my save here, I've got almost the entire tree filled, so I'm not going to bother with Linus. And I have a lot of money, so I'm not going to bother with Mortimer. Next we have Walter Kerman. So he takes 5% of your funds and turns it into more reputation. So let's say if you had a lot of money but you didn't have a lot of reputation, you choose this one so you can get more rep. Let's say you killed a lot of Kerbals or something and you had a lot of money, you could just sacrifice a little money and get your reputation back up again. Although I'm pretty sure that in this version, reputation doesn't really do anything. I don't know if you lose per se if you get 0 reputation. I'm not sure if that works yet. But anyway, it's fun to mess around with. The other option you get with him is you take some of your science and turn that into reputation. So he gives you more reputation. And the last one, Gus. I love how they used, I mean, I don't know if they did this on purpose, the two characters from my favorite show, Breaking Bad. You got Walt and Gus. Maybe they did that on purpose, maybe not, who knows. Anyway, we got aggressive negotiations. So what this one does is it takes away the cost of your funds on launch, and but it sacrifices your reputation. So basically the launch will be cheaper, but you'll have less reputation every time. Or the other option, this is my favorite one, I'm probably going to go with this one, the recovery transponders. Basically it fits all the parts with little transponders. It adds more money to the launch, like your launch will cost more, but you'll get more recovery from your vessel. So let's say you're like me and you like to tend to land on the other side of Kerbin, you get more funds recovered from this one, and I think I might just commit to that fully because I don't have to really worry about funds too much. I got 3.8 million here, and I'd rather recover a lot more because again I tend to land very far away from the KSC, so I'm going to go with that one. Are you sure you want to activate this strategy? It can't be modified once activated. It does cost a bit of money to start up. Let's see. We'll commit to it 75%. That's a little better. So we'll go with that. We got this one going here. Now I guess you can pick multiple ones, so that's pretty interesting. But like I said, I think I'm going to leave it like this for now, because that sounds pretty good to me. Another cool thing you notice is, let's say you have any debris laying around, like I seem to have a booster over here. You can just kind of click that. It looks like it was probably a booster, 1 part 2 stages, and you can either fly that or recover it right here from the main home screen. So I'm just going to recover that. And actually did give us a little bit of money back, so that's pretty neat. But I think the most interesting update that they made for this is that now the buildings in the KSC are destructible. Okay, so if you're launching and you're separating those stages, if a booster accidentally comes down and crashes on the launch pad, it's going to destroy that launch pad. And similarly, if anything just happens to hit any of these buildings, it'll destroy it, and you'll have to, use some money to rebuild that structure that gets damaged. So I think what we might actually have to start doing is attaching parachutes to all of our stages. I think that's a good way to maybe mitigate some of that from happening. Again, I haven't really tested this too much. I'm not really sure what kind of impact tolerance these buildings have yet, but I guess we'll find out. And I think the last thing that they added is a bunch of spaceplane parts, which we haven't messed around yet, and I'm kind of glad I didn't build any spaceplanes in my previous episodes, just because now that we have these new spaceplane parts, we can really start to do some interesting things. Like they added this new cockpit, the Mark II, which just looks pretty cool if you ask me. We have a drone core. I guess if you want to like fly it unmanned, you could use the drone core. It's an unmanned part. Yeah, that's basically what that is. It's pretty cool, an unmanned space plane. I guess you could call it a drone. Now, I don't have many of the parts because I didn't unlock many of that stuff. In fact, let's go back. Let's just see exactly what we have here. Because we did get a lot of science from that Jewel mission. We sent a couple probes to the outer moons of Jewel. Let's just unlock a bunch of stuff. Our advanced aerodynamics, and I feel like we're going to find a lot of the new parts in here. So we'll research that one. We'll research high altitude flight to get us the turbojet engines and the intakes here. What else can we do? More advanced cockpits, fuselages, hypersonic flight, so we get the toroidal arrow spike and the Rapier engine, which is pretty sweet. Shock cone intake, I think that might be new. Some kind of intake. And Elevatron. So we'll grab that. We never did anything with asteroids. Maybe someday we'll just grab that. Oh, what does this give us over here? More stuff. So this is like composites if you want to build like rovers and such, which probably one day we'll do that. We're just going right down the tree here. Ion propulsion. Perhaps we'll use that someday. And, oh, we're short by 25 credits, our science credits. We can't quite get the entire tree. So that's why we're going to keep playing this game, because we want to get this whole tree done. And not only that, but I want to visit every single body in the entire solar system. Every single one. So that's what we're going to be finishing up in this new Kerbal Space Program series of 0.25. I'm going to make a whole new playlist for this. And I might still call it episode 37. I don't know. We'll see how I name the episodes. Who knows? But anyway, we got Moho to go to, Drez, a couple more moons of Jewel, and Elu. Let's go back. Let's see what kind of contracts we have here. Because we might not have all the contracts yet. So these are some part tests. But we're not going to be doing any rescue missions anytime soon. What we're going to do, let's see. We have Explore Drez. We can do that one. Explore Lathe, Moho, Tylo, and Val. So we can go a couple different ways here. I think first, though, since this is the first of a new series, we're going to go to something very difficult. I think it's probably the most difficult place to go to in the whole game, in terms of at least fuel requirements, and we're going to go to Moho. You might be thinking, oh, well, Moho, that's fairly simple, because, you know, it's the innermost planet. How hard could that be, right? Well, because it's so close to the sun, let's take a look at old Moho here. It orbits lunatic speed, ludicrous speed around the sun. It goes at an astonishing, 17,919 meters per second around the sun. So it's very difficult to meet up with it. It's going very fast, and not only that, it's got about a 7-degree inclination off the ecliptic, which is quite fuel expensive to make that kind of correction. Let's take a look at the stats. It's a fiery place, yes. Well, let's take a look at the actual stats here. So gravity is 0.275. It's not as heavy as some of the places, but it's definitely heavier than a moon. Oh, look at that. That's interesting. On the sun side, there seems to be some sort of dust, I guess, from the solar winds impacting the surface. It's a little dusty. It's probably ablating the surface away from Moho. That's kind of interesting. That comes from the astronomer's visual pack there, that effect right there. But definitely an interesting place. It's like our Mercury in our solar system. Just a planet, a poor planet that's in the oven. Let's see, what else? Rotation period is very slow. It takes 56 days for one full orbit. And there's the sphere of influence. Escape velocity is 1,100. So it's not incredibly difficult to escape, but it will be very difficult to get there. And once we're there, it's a little heavy. It's going to take a little more thrust to get down there, a little more fuel to get back. And not only that, getting back home again requires another inclination change and then meeting up with Kerbin again. So all in all, it's going to require, I'm going to just roughly estimate, maybe some 20,000 meters per second total delta V. So it's going to be quite the engineering feat. And whoa, that was freaky for a second there. Like the land didn't load and it looked like it was just water. Scared me there for a second. So what I'm thinking of doing is we might have to like send out a separate fuel tug just to go alongside of it, just to refuel it once we get to Moho, so that when we're on the way back we can have full fuel again. Or I might just try to build something just so big and so insane that we don't even need to go the fuel route. So I don't know, we'll see what we come up with here. Let's go over to the vehicle assembly building and see what we can do. Okay, so this is the monstrosity yet again that I've constructed for my Moho craft. This is it. So let's go through it. At the top, we've got the lander can, the 2-man can, with a little docking shielded port on top. Again, in case I want to send over a fuel lug, in case I want to send some more fuel to these guys. Attached to that, I got 2 Science Juniors with 2 goo containers. On top of those, I've got 2 parachutes for re-entry. Alright, coming on down further, we have the... Basically, this is the Moho landing unit. Fuel tank here, with 2 detachable side tanks here, and this is for landing on Moho. Basically, it's going to draw fuel from the center tank into these outer tanks. I've got the T-45 engines on here with gimbaling. I think that's the one. Whichever one has gimbaling. I always forget. Yeah, this one, the T-45. A little less thrust, but we want the gimbaling engines just to help us out. They're out here on little support structures. So when we land on Moho, those things are going to get us back down and up again. On the bottom here, we've got Clampatron Senior. And what this is going to do, it's going to clamp onto the SAS unit and a probe body with a battery. And so this is going to stay basically in orbit around Moho. This is our service module. On the service module, we have a set of RCS thrusters and double nuclear, the atomic engines. Very similar to the Eve ship that we had, only we have an extra thick tank of fuel down here at the bottom. Coming out over here, we've got these side tanks, and each one has a little tiny tank underneath just for a little more delta V. So the plan is that this is going to be our payload. Once we get to Moho, we'll separate these two with the senior docking port. This little top part will go down to the surface, get all the science we can, come back up, re-rendezvous, maybe refuel if we have a refueler out there. Maybe we won't need to. And I say we might not need to because I've built this monster. This thing is just... I'm scared. I'm scared of it. And I'll tell you why. So here's what it is. It's two of these very large, gigantic fuel tanks stacked up in the middle with the quad, the most powerful engine here, this one, the engine cluster, for an astonishing 3,200 thrust. Then around the outside of those, I've got 6 in asparagus style setup here with the pipes. I've got another set of those quad engines going all the way around for the maximum thrust, the maximum push. And you can see here we're gonna have a nice 2. Let's see, actually, we went to atmospheric stats on Kerbin the last stage. Yeah, it's gonna be a nice 2.07 thrust weight ratio, so that's plenty of thrust, and we should be pretty good all the way up. So, but that's not where it ends, folks. Before those things start separating, on the outsides of those, I've attached these smaller little, like, engine boosters, what do you call them? The LFBKR 1x2s, as kind of like a booster. And so those things feed in, each of those tanks feed into each of its attached tanks. So and I'm just realizing how insane this all is. This is just nuts. So that, and then, well, finally after that, the very last thing is we have these the gigantic SRBs attached to those. So basically how it's going to work is upon launch every single engine is going to ignite and all these clamps are going to detach. Hopefully the SRB should run out first. We'll let them go, and you notice I attached parachutes to all of them with the parachute in the actual detachment stage so that they will activate the parachute once it detaches automatically. Hopefully those things should float down to Kerbin safely and not destroy any of our buildings. Alright, once those go, moving up one stage further, we have these outer booster stages. They will detach. Again, each one has a set of radial parachutes, and I've kind of had to double up on Sepratron engines because I feel like this is so freaking heavy. Hopefully they should push away just fine. Once those things stage, then we start our asparagus, starting with these 2 tanks out here, then these 2 tanks over here, finally these 2 tanks over here. Now I'm hoping we can save a lot of this fuel so we can get most of the burn out to Moho finished. Then I hope we can save even more fuel for our inclination correction, and then hopefully save even more fuel for our trans-Moho burn or any corrections we need to make on the way. Ideally, I'd like to save this entire ship. I don't want to use any of these engines until I'm trying to slow down around Moho. And I feel like if I do that, then I probably have a chance of getting to Moho, landing, and getting back to Kerbin without having to have a refueler. Total delta V in this entire thing, actually, that's odd. Oh, it's because I have atmospheric stats on. Let me change that to normal. Total delta V, an astonishing 16,666, it turns out. That's a nice number. All 6s except for the first number. I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign that we're doomed. But hopefully that's enough delta V to get everything that we need to get done. And some of you are probably thinking I'm absolutely nuts, and you're probably right, I am nuts. This could be done probably with a smaller ship and a fuel lug being sent out too, but I hate sending fuel lugs. I feel like it's just like a cop-out. Anyway, let's go over to action groups. By the way, not judging if anyone uses fuel lugs, I do it all the time and I totally understand. I just would prefer not to. Solar panels out here is number 1. Number 2 is solar panels down here on the service module. And number 3 will shut down these center RCS thrusters. Basically, I only want them activated when the service module is disconnected from the top. Otherwise, we do have a set here and a set here of thrusters. Those should be good enough, so we can hit the 3 key to disable these thrusters when we don't need them. Crew! Who's going? Not Jeb and Bill. They've seen enough. How about... Listen, we've pretty much used all these guys already. Thromden, he was a cool hero. We had him. And someone really stupid. Let's get Jorley, perhaps? Yes, Jorley's going to go along, too. Thromden and Jorley. Alright. That is the plan. And I am terrified of this thing. Oh, it's gonna be definitely an interesting trip. Well, I guess I should finish up what I had on here. You know, attached I got some lights, landing legs, I got the Kerbal engineering mod, hopefully it works with 0.25. Got the big communitron and the 4 science things down here from when we got on the surface. Well, along with all the other science. Not that we really need much science because we have pretty much the entire tech tree done, but hey, you'd always want to get those things. But this is it, the Moho Explorer Mark II. I named it Mark II because I had a Mark I and it wasn't nearly as big as this and didn't quite do the job, but this is going to be it. Let's get this thing out to the launch pad. Here we go. Now, I have not tested this thing yet, so this thing might just explode immediately off the runway. It might blow up right now, before we even hit launch. It's also possible that I messed up the staging somehow, because there were so many little parts to it. But we're going to see what happens. The episode's getting to its ending point, so let's just see if this thing will even launch. Alright, it's loaded in, and wow, it's bouncing. It's super heavy. It doesn't like this at all. I'm going to just put it at 2/3 thrust, and normally I'd line up the phase angles now, but I'm not going to do it now, and there's a perfectly good reason for that, which I'll explain. But let's get this thing going. Oh god, I'm scared. Oh! Wow! Oh my goodness. I've never built something this big before. This is insane. I mean, listen to those engines. There's about 3 different engine types in here. SRBs, these dual ones, and these quad ones, all firing at the same time. Oh my goodness. Now, hopefully, I did this fueling right. I'm not even sure. Looks like 2 of them are already burned out. I kind of wanted them all to burn out at the same time. I probably didn't do the staging right, but let's just see what happens. We'll keep going with this. Just wait till the solid fuels burn off. And then we can start staging other things. This is the heaviest thing I've ever built. I could probably make it better if I did that fuel hosing better. But I just kind of wanted to see what this thing looked like. I also wanted to see if it would even get off the ground without completely exploding into a billion pieces. And it looks like it's doing a pretty good job of that so far. My god. Once these things stage, there's going to be a hell of a show. Here we go. This is where it's going to get exciting. We'll let these go. Oh, there's the parachutes taking them down. We'll let all these things go. Wow! Oh, that's so cool. Their parachutes are going, hopefully. Oh my goodness. And then it's just this big giant thing left with all our asparagus staging. This ain't bad, you know? All things considered, I'm kind of liking this so far. Let's just see what happens here. And look at this thing. That is a monster. So far, it's pretty good, though. Alright? Nothing's exploded yet. That's a miracle. That is a freaking miracle. I'll just keep this thing right on the 90 line. Chorley's having the time of his life. Thromden's freaking out. Chorley's the dumb one, I think. So he has no idea what's basically happening right now. He's just like, wee! Thromden's like me. I'm like, oh my god, this is not gonna work. This is not gonna work. We're gonna have serious issues here. We're doing surprisingly well with fuel because these tanks are extremely huge. There's a large amount of fuel in all these tanks. It's a little slow going. I might just boost the thrust up a little further, just to maximum, just to get things really going here. Apoapsis is 31 and rising. Just going to keep pushing along the prograde vector here. It's a very slow launch. Once we can get above the soupy stuff, I think we should be alright. There. Oh no! Disaster! What in the world? Oh, disaster. Oh no. Okay, so that didn't work. I think what we need to do is rebalance our, what do you call these, Sepratron engines. That didn't quite work out. We've had a bit of a disaster. Oh, it exploded due to overheating. Is that what happened? Oh, wow. Let me just cut these things off. Oh, wow, that's what's happening. I think this is just hitting the engines and causing an explosion. So these need to be pushed away further and faster. That's what the problem is. They need to be pushed more. We probably need to put more Sepratron engines in there, but that's good to know. So this is kind of like a first test flight for our Moho Explorer. It's a little bit heavy. I want to try to mess around with that staging a little earlier just to see if we can just fix stuff. But that's a good first flight, don't you say, guys? And I think that's a good first episode for Kerbal Space Program 0.25. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching, and I hope you look forward to the rest of the series where we finish going to all these planets and moons and all the good stuff that has in store for us in the Kerbol system. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next episode.